I've been thinking a lot lately about the types of stories that I like to read and the stories that I have been, subjecting you to. And one of the thing that the overwhelming theme, the prevailing theme is they're weird fiction. Yeah, there's horror, there's westerns, there's all this other stuff, mysteries, all this other stuff that I read, but I keep coming back to weird fiction.
Mhm.
And it begged the question to myself, why weird fiction? For instance, I'm currently working my way through, Tales of Weird Menace, by Robert E. Howard stories by the Robert E. Howard Foundation Press, and it has the name right in the damn title, Weird. So my question to myself was, why, why am I so into, what made me be? Why do I like weird fiction so
Why are you
much?
so weird? Why are you so weird?
Well, because I hang out with a guy called Weird Steve. The thing is, I don't have an answer.
Oh, well.
I don't have an answer, as at least I don't have one ready. So
Let's figure it out together.
that's what I'm thinking. Like, I look at my life and I look at the stuff that I've always read and always gravitated to, and which eventually led to me reading actual weird tales, weird fiction. Also, why do so many of us here on Pope Island and various other YouTube channels, and a lot of people who watch the show who don't have YouTube channels, we all gravitate towards it. You've been getting into it partially because of me, but then I catch you reading stuff on your own.
You caught me.
So, and it just so happens to be stuff like H.P. Lovecraft. And even though, yeah, I said in May we're going to talk about him, but you went ahead and just did it anyway. Plus, you've been delving into Algernon Blackwood quite a bit.
Yeah.
So why? What is it about it that is so damn appealing? I grew up reading comics. By the way, so let me know your answer. If you have one, let me know down below, why? What is it for you? What does it? I've always read comics since I was, before I could even read. In fact, comics helped me learn to read because there's nothing cooler than words and pictures, So there's that. I grew up the same place you did. You know what it looks like. Anybody that watched our vlog has seen where we grew up. So the idea of finding anything that wasn't that was like my mission as a kid. When we were in elementary school and we were reading like the reading books, all the different, each level had a different name. There's like Serendipity and Worlds, I think was one of them. Kaleidoscope, yeah. We always read the most boring shit for these stories, but every once in a while there'd be something really, really far out. There would be some sort of science fiction or whatever that was written like 50 years earlier that would just in between like excerpts from the Little House on the Prairie series, which don't get me started on them. They would sandwich in like these really great, weird stories. And that was the stuff that I read. I never read the other stuff. I just faked it in class. Those would have been the stories that my grades got better at. And never once did a teacher go, wait a minute. So you seem to do well here, but not here. Where's the correlation? Why? How, that never happened because, we've said time and time again that basically our teachers just hated children.
They were too busy. They were too busy sharpening their paddle and drilling holes in their swatting paddle.
Yes, and bragging and taking pride and doing physical punishment on 7-year-old. That anyway. Then of course, junior high hits and Dungeons and Dragons becomes my entire identity, you know. And through that is where I discovered, Robert E. Howard and a bunch of the other guys from the appendix and in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I'm reading all this stuff, and I just keep asking myself, what is it about, what is it about this stuff that appeals to me? Why, when it comes to okay, like then in high school, for instance, we're reading novels, and for the most part, I'm bored to tears. And then we read like H.G. Wells, and suddenly, boop, a light comes on in my head. I prefer genre fiction over literature. I think part of it too, because there's a lot. There's a lot of fantasy. There's a lot of science fiction. There's more out there than 100 people could read in 100 years. But then there's people that do that stuff, and it's really good.
It's like 10,000.
Like it. Okay, there's way more than that.
It's 10,000 person years.
Yeah. There's way more than that. But then there's a lot of bad writers out there, a lot of dull writers out there, and then there's ones who really know how to work words, and I love words, like wordplay, all that stuff, and I just the language is something that I just, I'd be reading a book, for instance. This even goes back to like high school. I was doing this in high school. I'd be reading a book for school, and if I came across a word or a phrase that like just came out of nowhere, blindsided me, I'd write it down real quick. I love the way words work together well, and I think a lot of these like weird tales and weird fiction writers were inspired by like the poets and people like that, the generation before them. I think we touched on this in an episode a while ago, but or it could be confusing us with somebody else. But so they're reading, okay, like Howard, for instance. Howard read a lot of Lord Dunsany, and it shows, And then if I go back and I read some of his stuff, I love it because it's the same vein. So maybe it's the way it's like, maybe it's a combination of subject matter, maybe it's a combination of just the way it flows, the poetry behind it, because it is poetic. Or I maybe that's why it appeals to me so much. I don't know. I just, like I said, I didn't have a plan when I sat down to make this video, other than I wanted to talk about it, So, and I know I'm not alone, so that's why I'm curious what other people think, why, what is it about this stuff that draws you?
Wow, for not having a plan, you had a lot to say.
Well, I had a lot to say,
and you said it well.
To say all the time. Just come out kind of jumbled.
I have a few things to say. Being the newest member of the Weird Fiction fan club, I've been actually trying to figure out what is meant by weird fiction. And I took a stab at writing a weird story, writing a short story that was ostensibly weird fiction. And to the now I'm going to make it so boring. This is for Nick. Nick, this is for you. Stop what you're doing. Pay attention. I'm about to make something that you love boring. All right. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to define what is meant by weird fiction. There's like this building weirdness, right? It starts out like normal world, something's off. And then as the story goes on, the thing that's off, maybe it could be explained away in the beginning. Maybe it's like it's just weird. Weird stuff happens sometimes, right? But the
Yeah,
more you get into the story, the more it's like, wait a minute. This is
yeah,
not just some fluke, right? This is like really, there's a building tension and a building sense of dread. And it could, the scale could be anywhere from just one person doing something weird or, experiencing weirdness, or it could be the whole world, it could be the whole cosmos, it could be the universe, right? The multiverse, right? So it
mhm,
doesn't matter how big it is, something weird's going on. It's probably real, it could be real, but you don't know that in the beginning, and it sort of builds over
yeah,
time. And one of the common themes is like the sense of dread, the sense of madness, like this world ain't right, or maybe I'm
mhm,
not right, or maybe I'm right
mhm,
and the world's mad, or maybe the world's okay and I'm mad. I don't know, right? Is that a
mhm.
description of weird fiction that you would say is close?
I I'd say it's a pretty good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah,
One of the things I like about weird fiction is you also can't 100% describe it, and
sure.
it has a lot of it has a lot of stuff that would you could bring into weird fiction. So like Ambrose Bierce, right? He we don't really think of him, the average person doesn't really think of him as a weird fiction writer because he came along like way early, like well before this kind of genre or whatever was established. But he's one of the guys that helped, unbeknownst to him, he helped establish some of the groundwork for it. So there's a lot of stuff on the outside that could count as, it's not one type of genre. I don't think Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge is probably the thing he's the most famous for, even though he wrote so many
Well,
stories.
I think if you're gonna ask a question like why weird fiction, I think you
Mhm.
kind of have to have a definition, I think.
Well,
And
yeah,
I'm
and I think what
I'm
you hit
happy
on
to
is a good
and
definition.
I'm happy to have people tell me I'm wrong, but if it's just like if it's kind of like, well, weird fiction is anything I kind of like, then it's like, well, why weird fiction? Well, because you like it, right? And then you're in a
Yeah.
circular sort of logic circle, right?
Mhm.
Um, and when you first proposed this topic, I didn't know you meant why do you like weird fiction? I thought it was why was weird fiction even a thing?
Oh,
Um,
oh yeah, yeah.
but maybe
I I kept it kind of vague on purpose when we talked about it because I didn't want to think about it too much.
maybe
But
they're
basically, yeah,
related
why
though.
what probably like what gravitates us to it, and not so much what it is. Your description, what you said, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's a really good description of it. It just happens to also have a bunch of subgenres around it, I guess. But that
Sure.
that as a whole is a good definition of a weird tale or a weird fiction.
So if that's the case, I think that, and again, not to get all academic on it, but
Hmm.
in a world, I thought about like when weird fiction really became popular, kind of the
Hmm.
interwar years, and then after World War II, you know,
Hmm.
um, and then the space age, it's kind of the
Yeah,
nuclear age, Cold War. And now, if it's experiencing a resurgence, I would like to think it is, and maybe it is,
yeah,
maybe it's not, but it could be availability bias. Like suddenly I'm seeing it everywhere because we have this channel, right? We're on Pulp
yeah.
Island. But I think during times of uncertainty or times of like the world seems like a messed up place,
Hmm.
this is attractive because it's like it offers you okay, I'm not the only one who thinks the universe is messed up, and the
Hmm.
universe, there's something going on that we don't know about, and I've experienced weirdness in my life. And boy, to read this like symbolic, like somebody's experiencing weirdness in an alternate universe, and
Hmm.
it's not just their imagination. Well, in some
Yeah.
cases, it might be, but they're experiencing this weirdness. I think that's a really universal, timeless, maybe
Yeah.
And then, so that's just in general. You and I specifically, well, you certainly, and I just didn't find the genre when at the time that I should have, but I found lots of other weird things. I don't know if you'd call Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy weird fiction, but it's certainly weird.
Yeah.
But in a different way, it's more science
Yeah.
fiction weird,
Yeah. Yeah. And that what you just said goes back to, like, for me, goes back to my surroundings as a child, making me look for something to escape from it,
And
and
one of the things that was on offer is Dr. Demento.
yeah,
And
he just retired recently.
Dr. Demento, which made Weird Al Yankovic a household name, right?
And vice versa.
Yeah. And we grew up on a diet, on a heavy diet of Dr. Demento, right? Any chance we got, we were like tuning in the radio, kids, when you had to tune in the radio at the right time to hear the show that you wanted to hear. And no adult in our life would have listened to that and said, I'm glad you boys are listening to this. That's some good, wholesome entertainment. They would have been like, what? Get away from that TV. Son of Svengoolie.
Yeah, no, I had a lot of that. Listening to Dr. What are you listening to?
Put on something decent. Son of Svengoolie, same boat. Benny Hill. Yeah. These shows were not normal.
Yeah.
Freaking Soupy Sales, Ray Rayner. We were always seeing this just bizarre. Like, if you watch it now, you're like I kind of go, what in the hell were we watching? What is going on in these shows, right? It's all weird. And weird in the colloquial sense of the term, not in the weird fiction sense. But I think that kind of opens your brain to go, it's okay to think of these things, and it's okay to enjoy that kind of entertainment. And so when you find a book about some weird fish people coming up out of the sea, in this town, and you're like, okay. Or you find a story about somebody being in Antarctica and finding some weird starfish headed freaks. You're like, all right, my mind's already been open to the weird world of stuff, so here we go. Bring it on.
I think maybe we're born with like a mind that wants to know why.
Yeah.
And I mean that as a blanket. Why and what if?
Oh yeah. What if? Why and what if? Yeah.
I have always been like, since I was very small, I used to get in trouble in church all the time by asking why and what if. But that I won't go too far into that. But I've always wondered about like things like why is that like that?
Yeah,
that thing. Why is it like it? And I can't imagine, and I can't wrap my head around being the type of person who doesn't care.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
So I ever since I was small, I've always wondered why and what if. And I think those are those are two things, two elements of weird fiction, just in reverse. Like the first one is what if.
Yeah.
And then the other is why? As you slowly go mad,
why? What sort of devilry is this?
That's right.
Yeah, man. Why and what if? I heard somebody once say, fiction authors, any genre of fiction, it's a magical thing when an author is able to convince somebody that another type of life is possible. And weird fiction certainly is no exception. Another type of world is possible. The what if, the why. I think that's it, man. It is that's my why weird fiction. And I think now here's a question. Sailor Steve Costigan, right? I don't think any of those stories, or at least the ones I've read, really fit the weird fiction definition that I said earlier. Are they weird fiction or are they pulp, more like just pulp?
They fall into the pulp category.
Yeah.
Which is another one. We could do an episode on that too one of these days. Because pulp is not reality.
Yeah.
It's a reality. It's like I used to tell my dad.
Hyper reality.
My dad does not like spaghetti westerns. And one day I told him, I says, Dad, the thing is spaghetti westerns aren't reality. They are a reality. And after that, it was like, oh yeah, so it's like a fairy tale, or just like a complete, where the normal rules of logic don't apply. Yeah, people don't have banjos that are machine guns,
Yeah.
or people can't catch a bullet in their teeth, it's it's a reality, and I think that's part of it too. Part of the reason why I like spaghetti westerns, but no, pulps and weird fiction are two different genres, but kind of sort of related in a like like the fifth cousin of
Well,
weird
I don't know
fiction
about two
is
different
pulps.
genres. I mean, there's weird fiction that is in pulp form. Pulp to me
Yeah,
is kind of
true.
a format more than a genre, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm new to pulp as well. Well, thank you for welcoming me to Pulp Island. I realize I'm still on probation. I'm in my probationary period. I could be fired at
You,
any time for any reason.
bro, you've been doing this for you're out of probation. Now you're in there's no excuse phase.
Dude, 5 years from now, I'll still be saying I'm new to this. So
Yes. Well, okay, I'll tell you something that in to my mind, and maybe we can wrap this up.
we can wrap it up, Bob.
But to my mind, other than the fact that the writers all wrote the different genres, I think one of the things that pulp and weird fiction have in common is hyperbole.
That's true. That is very true. In fact, every single book I've ever read has hyperbole. All of them.
Every single one.
That's right.
And
And I've
read
read
a
all the
million
books. I've read a million books. That's right. I've read, if I had a million years and there were a million people reading a million books, they would eventually write Shakespeare.
That's right.
Ape.
Okay.
Ape. Bring
Yeah.
it back to monkeys,
Speaking of apes, we'll get back to the monkeys next week as we finish up. As the apes are offended that I called them monkeys, we'll get back to the apes next week. I am hoping to have Siska and Gorilla finished to be able to do a review of it, because the book is sheer madness. But let me know down below what you think about your thoughts on what we've just discussed. But on that
we're a couple of curious guys.
We're like Curious George
curious.
and Curious Weird Steve.
We're two curious guys.
That's right.
We're both curious.
We're just two curious guys who enjoy each other's company.
Like George. We're curious like George. And we have a great scarf collection.
I have a pretty good scarf collection, I gotta say.
That's true. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
And the next time you're looking for something to read,
check your shelf.
If you're going to tell me your life story, why don't you sit down?